Hi, I'm Dr. Bill Carlazon, Principal Editor of NPP Digital Psychiatry and Neuroscience. Welcome to the DPN Deep Dive, our journal's AI-generated podcast that summarizes DPN articles in short, accessible episodes. Each episode is created using Google's Notebook LM, refined by our tech-savvy social media team, and approved by the authors to ensure clarity, accuracy, and approachability. Let's dive into this episode to explore the latest research in digital psychiatry and neuroscience.
Okay, think about this for a second. Your smartphone, right? The thing you probably use every single day. What if the way you type on it, the words you casually choose, are actually revealing something deeper about your mental health? Today, we're doing a deep dive into that connection. Specifically, how language used on phones might give us insights into the brains of adolescents dealing with depression.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. We're focusing on a really important article called Neural Correlates of Depression-Related Smartphone Language Use in Adolescents. This work comes from Elizabeth A. McNeilly, Tiffany C. Ho, and their colleagues, top researchers at the University of Oregon and University of California in Los Angeles.
And our mission here, for you listening, is to unpack this. How can simple word choices, the kind you make without thinking, possibly reflect complex things happening in the brain, especially these neurocognitive biases linked to depression?
It sounds almost like science fiction, doesn't it?
It really does. So how did they even start? What was the method here? It seems incredibly complex to measure.
Well, their approach was pretty clever, actually. They passively collected smartphone keyboard data. So not what people said they typed, but what they actually typed. This was from 40 adolescents aged between 14 and 18. And crucially, some had been diagnosed with depression, others hadn't.
Passively collected, so just monitoring normal usage.
Exactly. And the sheer amount of data is kind of staggering. They gathered over 1.2 million words from more than 300,000 messages. This is real-world communication,
Wow.
And then the really key step, they linked all that language data to brain imaging results, fMRI scans, from those same teenagers.
Okay, 1.2 million words. What patterns actually jumped out from all that text? Were there clear differences?
Yes, definitely. Some pretty consistent patterns emerged. First, maybe unsurprisingly, the adolescents with depression used significantly more words expressing negative emotions.
Right, that seems intuitive.
But it gets more subtle. They also found that higher depressive symptoms correlated with using more first-person singular pronouns, so more I or me.
Hold on, I and me. That just sounds like, well, normal talking, doesn't it? How is that a signifier?
That's a really good point. It's not about using I sometimes, of course. It's the frequency. The thinking is, when someone's depressed, their focus can often turn sharply inward. Rumination is a common feature. So this higher use of I and me might reflect that intense self-focus, maybe left psychological distance from their own thoughts and feelings.
Okay, so it's a potential marker for that inward-looking thought pattern. Interesting. Anything else?
Yes, and this one is quite significant too. They found that adolescents with depression used fewer future-focused words. Words related to tomorrow, planning, looking ahead. That could suggest, well, feelings of hopelessness, perhaps a difficulty envisioning the future.
That paints a concerning picture. So you have these language patterns, more negativity, more I, less future talk. How did this connect to the brain scans? That's the really novel part, right?
Yeah, exactly. They found clear links between these language markers and activity in specific brain networks known to be involved in depression. We're talking about the default mode network, the DMN, which is active during self-thought, mind-wandering, rumination.
Ah, the DMN.
Also, the Central Executive Network, or CEN, involved in focus and problem solving, and the Salience Network, the SN, which flags important internal and external stimuli. And they found, for example, that increased connectivity within the DMN was associated with using more of those first-person pronouns.
So the brain network involved in self-thought was more active or connected in those using I and me more often.
Precisely. It aligns perfectly with the DMN's role in self-referential processing. It shows how these thinking biases might manifest both in language and in measurable brain activity.
This feels like a big deal. What's the potential significance here, looking ahead?
Well, the researchers frame it as a proof of concept. It strongly suggests that our everyday smartphone language can reflect neurobiological aspects of depression. Think about it. This could open doors to maybe less invasive ways to detect early signs or even track treatment response.
Like a digital biomarker almost?
Potentially, yes. something scalable, running quietly in the background, using data that's already being generated. It could be a real shift in mental health monitoring.
But like all research, there must be caveats, right? Limitations.
Absolutely. And it's crucial to be clear about those. First, the sample size was relatively small, 40 adolescents. We need more data. Second, it's a cross-sectional study. That means it's a snapshot in time. We see a correlation between language, brain activity, and depression.
But you can't say for sure which causes which.
Exactly. Does depression lead to the language changes? Or do certain language habits contribute? Or is it a mix? We don't know the causal direction yet. For that, you'd need prospective studies following people over time. And definitely, replication in larger, more diverse clinical groups is essential before drawing firm conclusions.
Okay, that's important context. So let's bring it back to you, our listener. What should you take away from this deep dive? Could the way you text your friends, the words you punch into your phone every day, someday be part of how mental health is understood or even monitored?
It really hints at that possibility, a future where our digital interactions might offer these personalized, sort of passive insights into our brain health. It could pave the way for much more targeted, maybe even preventative interventions down the line.
It's a fascinating intersection of technology, language, and the brain. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today.